And actually, I have never done before this lecture. Just once, several years ago, more than 15 years ago, a colleague and friend of mine, we were together in the medical school of Athens. When she met me, and I told her that I was doing geriatrics instead of cardiology, what I was before, she said, "What happened to you?" So I will now tell you that story with few slides, just some pictures. So I'm originally Greek. I did my medical studies in Athens, and I finished the medical school of Athens in 1980, and then I went to Paris, 80 to 84, and then to Boston, 84 to 87. So I finished all that, and 88, I was cardiologist. And then I did also my PhD thesis in the University Paris 6. So in the clinics, during all this period, for my training and then, I was a cardiologist, and as a cardiologist, I was working mainly on high blood pressure and cardiac failure and other diseases. So I tried to be good, as everybody. I tried to learn what's heart, how does it work, how to, all the important systems, hormonal systems that regulate blood pressure, heart function, and also analyzing. I spent many time for analyzing curves of blood pressure, of heart, whatever. And well, things became more complicated in clinics as the years, went by, because more and more I had to treat older people as a cardiologist. So people like that. And I started putting some questions to myself. First, do all these people, older people, need the same type of management? Which are the priorities for each one of these persons? Another question, do these patients want to be treated? Do these patients have the capacity to understand and to follow what I propose them? And finally, a more fundamental question, do I really improve the global prognosis and quality of life of these patients, or I just normalize blood pressure? Or normalize maybe somehow the heart function? What about the other risks? Do they have a risk when I give drugs to have a fall, to have a fracture, to have depression, to lose their autonomy? How do I influence their quality of life? Can I improve all that, or just I treat an organ, I treat one disease or something, blood pressure values or cholesterol values or glycemia values? And I started asking these kind of questions. And this was my clinics. And at the same time, I had, from the beginning, I was in a center in Paris, many years with Gérard Topouchian, which also another doctor. We were together for many years in this, with our chief, Michel Safar, and we were doing a lot of clinical research. And this clinical research was mainly oriented to arterial changes with age. So I did a lot of studies with arterial structure, with arterial function, by measuring arteries again, by measuring waves, by measuring backward waves, forward waves, whatever. And then I understood that with age, the arteries change, but some people are above, some people are underneath this evolution. And the question is, again, I started asking myself some questions. Question is, which are the basic mechanisms of this aging process? Why arteries change? And why some people change more than others? And also I try to understand who is at increasing risk for these kind of changes. Who is the red, who is the green one? And how does the different systems communicate among them? Okay, I'm interested on arteries and heart, but do brain ages at the same time, bones, other systems? So I try to understand that. So from 1997, I went back to the studies. I worked, of course, at the hospital, doing the same job, but progressively, I was, again, student. So I have to go to France, to several centers. I did the European School of Aging and Geriatric Medicine in Switzerland, and I started working on some fundamental questions for me. And these fundamental questions was, for instance, based on the questions I told you before, to explore the relationships between vascular aging and the general aging process. Understand the heterogeneity of the rhythms, of the pace of the aging among the different systems, among the different persons. To have a more clinical approach, a more holistic approach in the management of older people. Try to understand, to answer the questions I told you, really. And also, I try to understand that if I want to really improve the quality of life, the prognosis of these patients, older patients, I have to understand not only which is the blood pressure levels and the cholesterol levels, but also to evaluate their physical, cognitive, psychological, social, economic, environmental, family status. Complicated, but necessary. And I understood that if you want to treat older people, you have to spend time also, but you have to have knowledge also. So to have knowledge, you have to go to study again. And to have time, well, you have to go and work more in geriatric departments, but this is accepted. So you cannot see an older patient in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, impossible. So this is starting in 1995. And so I met some very important people that I have the big chance. Abraham Aviv in New Jersey. He introduced me in 1997, 1998, I remember. He called me from New Jersey. He asked me to collaborate on a project. Guy from telomeres science, Abraham Aviv. I was the arterial guy. And I entered that field. I tried to understand the mechanism through the telomeres, about longevity, about aging, about regulation of telomeres, what happens, why at the age of 60 you may have this longer telomere length, what happens in your life at birth during your growing period. So the mechanism that can make me understand a little bit, how things are moving. And I worked, and I still work, on this field, especially to understand, according, for instance, to the telomere lengths, how your aging, the atherosclerotic risk to develop the woman, the man, and different ages, as you can see here, how all these interact and gives the increased probability to develop such or such different cardiovascular age-related diseases. But in my clinics also, I think that this, what I show you in the different steps in the Greek temple, I was able to better, I think, treat persons, older persons, because I was started understanding what does it mean to have a global evaluation, and following this global evaluation to make an hierarchization of the needs, of the possibilities of treating, on also the expectations of the person. And also, as I told you, to understand the interconnections between brain aging, skin aging, muscle aging, bone aging, and arterial aging. And this is something that I think in the everyday practice is extremely useful, at least for me. I hope it's useful for my patient as well. Well, so studying the geriatric medicine and the biology of aging, I really discovered a new word. I discovered a new word with strong interconnections and interactions. Interaction between diseases, functions, and capacities. Interactions between physicians, doctors, vraches, as you say, vrach, nurses, psychological, social workers, physiotherapists, ergotherapists, speech therapists, and many other people. Interactions and interconnection between biology, social science, medicine, and interactions and interconnections between kidney, brain, arteries, and other systems, bones and muscles. So these make a puzzle that is much more complex, but it's so much interesting. And I can tell you every time I go to a geriatric congress, I feel really, well, very good, because I can understand, I can hear, I can receive messages and things that I don't know every day. And this is something that it's the most interesting thing, and that keeps me at the age of 62 a little bit more younger than maybe if I didn't have that. Well, and many others. So, well, of course, as I told you, what I'm trying in all that clinic research is to understand a little bit with this mystery, which is the aging process. But I think I can understand a few things more than 15 years ago when 20 years now, 20 years ago when I started being in this field, but there are still one thing, at least one thing I cannot understand, or even if I understand, I cannot change, and you will understand that, you will see that very quickly. So this thing is that why this person back in 1981 in the Safar's department became this person in 2018. And this is the most complicated thing to understand. And it's good to not try to understand, but to accept. And otherwise, it's very difficult. But I still try to better understand that. And so I think one day I will know, maybe it will be too late to make something at that time. And so I would like maybe a little bit less than 18 minutes to thank you very much for your attention.